Good day to you. This is David Norman in another conversation about how to be a better consultant. We will continue this series in the sales and marketing arena and the tips and traps. As I had said in my previous podcast, if you agree with me, that's great. Practice what I'm saying. If you don't, that is also great. Maybe the differences between us and we can appreciate each other and learn from each other and continue to grow. So today, staying on the sales and practice development, some of the biggest tips and traps tend to be the language and the jargon we use. The traps we had talked about at the previous podcast. Avoid what I call the silly consulting type of language. Okay. Client names and logos. Similarly, I'm going to ask you to consider also dropping those from your website and your collateral material. Remember, they are there for your ego and, to a large degree, based on the work you do, can subliminally turn off prospects. Don't do it. You're only bragging and seemingly talking out of both sides of your mouth. It's tough for me to say, I'll treat your work with the utmost confidentiality and then post their logo, even with their permission. It's a bragging sheet. Why risk the appearance of breaking confidentiality all for your ego? I do use testimonials on my website, and you can check them out. But what I do use is initials and an industry as the identifier. Nothing specific in here, and that preserves the confidentiality. Another trap in consulting is thinking that you have to do proposals. Think about it. What are the traps that are inherent in doing proposals? Go ahead, just shoot yourself in the foot. What are the problems? They waste your energy. They waste your time. They provide the prospect with your work plan, your scope, your billing practices, and then the way they're used are primarily as a delay technique. I'll need to get my partner's approval. I need this to get the board to look at it. I need this so that my spouse will agree. What it is a Southern polite way of saying no. You simply haven't done a good job in selling. Now, note to this is there are some types of entities where proposals are necessary. Governmentals, not-for-profits are among those. I do see them as necessary, and I can't tell you not to do those. But on the other hand, if it's a private industry, consider not doing proposals. It gives away too much and wastes time and energy. And frankly, it's simply because you didn't do a good job of selling if they ask for a proposal. So some of the tips here, as we continue those, are, we have our own stories, and we like our stories, and we believe our stories as well, and nobody else really cares. Okay, we're too busy selling what we do than how we do it. This is the major differentiator. So go back to the conversation in the previous podcast about FUDWACA, FUDWACA. When you get to understanding that prospects, fears, uncertainties, doubts, worries, anxieties, concerns, and anger, you're going to do a better job of delivering on that promise of satisfaction. So I encourage you to listen 75% of the time when you're with that prospect. Talk 25% of the time. Let me repeat that. Listen 75% of the time. Ask open-ended questions and listen. Talk 25% of the time. Get the prospect talking. The chances are very good and predictable that they will mention their biggest problem in the first 5 minutes. Make a note of it, but don't leap on it too quickly. Ask more questions to go deeper. As a note, I encourage you also to take notes physically. I lost a gig once when I thought I'd nailed it, and when I was following up with the prospect to see how come I didn't get the gig, he said, "You can't be that smart." Pardon me? You can't be that smart. You didn't take notes. So now I take notes. Even if I'm writing in the margins or doodling, It looks like I'm taking notes. Remember, please, that whatever the prospect tells you, it's always a people problem. Think about it. Okay? Everything that we do is about a people problem. You may be in there doing a system, you may be in there doing operations, you may be in there doing HR or marketing, but when it all comes down to it, all that has to be carried out by people. You're the professional. It's always a people problem. It may be cast differently, but it's your role to figure that out. Reference lists. I don't have a reference list. I don't publish a reference list. In fact, if asked for a reference list, I simply say, I don't publish client names any more than I would publish your name. Simple. Besides, have you ever seen a reference list where the bad references are listed? Remember, a reference list is like a balance sheet. It has all the assets but none of the liabilities, and you wrote it. So I don't do them. So the trap is that, we're going to continue this in the next podcast, the trap is not differentiating yourself and the firm. You think so highly of your skills that they'll sell themselves. They might, but what opportunities are you missing by not selling differently? This is David Norman. This is the third of a series on sales and marketing tips and traps. Like us, subscribe to us so that you can hear more. And I'm out of here. Thank you.